Jurassic World Rebirth is in theaters now, and it might be my favorite sequel since the original The Lost World Jurassic Park. We're gonna go over my favorite and least favorite moments. I'm Josiah Rizzo. Welcome to my channel. All right, so for the spoiler-free section, I just want to start off and get this out there. I am a huge Jurassic Park fan. This has been my favorite book since I was a kid. I've read it and reread it multiple times. I am in the process of obviously rereading it now. So I might have a little bit of a bias in the sense that I want more Jurassic Park films and I want them to be good. That's as far as my bias goes because I do want good movies. And to me, I have not been satisfied with a Jurassic Park sequel since The Lost World. Now let's talk about that because at the end of the day, I do love The Lost World Jurassic Park. It is one of my favorite movies and I enjoy it around the same level as the first film. I acknowledge that the first Jurassic Park from 1993 from Steven Spielberg is a classic. Okay, that goes without saying. I'm not here to give you any hot takes. I'm not saying that any of the Jurassic Park sequels or Jurassic World movies are better than the original. Not even close. All right, no hot takes here. I love Jurassic Park 1993. I think it's a perfect movie, and it technically did not need any sequels. But we got a sequel. And no matter what Steven Spielberg says about that sequel, and no matter what critics say about that sequel, I will always love The Lost World. Not only will I always love The Lost World, I will love moments from The Lost World that a lot of people dismiss. I think the use of more dinosaurs is well done. I like the characters of The Lost World. I like that even though they make stupid decisions, I'm still rooting for them. And I controversially will always to this day defend the gymnastics scene. If I lost you there on that, then this review might not be the one for you because I might not be the type of person whose word you trust. And that's fair. I have always been fascinated with the juxtaposition of these timeless creatures against the backdrop of a manufactured theme park. I love jungle. I love John Williams' score. I love the idea of characters waxing philosophy while simultaneously trying to survive. For me, those are the ingredients for a perfect Jurassic Park film. It's not just dinosaurs, it's dinosaurs that were brought to life by man and that make us question our place in this universe, as well as what we're supposed to do in the face of capitalism and scientific discovery. I like those elements of Jurassic Park, and those are the elements that I think the first movie obviously does exceptionally, but I also feel that The Lost World does as well. And it is a fun thrill ride. It is an enjoyable movie from my childhood. I do have a nostalgic lens to it that will never disappear. To me, The Lost World has always been a film that I can throw on with the same level of reverence and the same level of enjoyment as the first film. In fact, The Lost World is what makes me enjoy the first movie even more. And I think there is something to be said about sequels that remind you of the first movie and keep it in the forefront of your mind and your consciousness. And without The Lost World, I don't think that these dinosaurs would feel as significant to us on the first movie alone, because there's so many scenes in that sequel that remind us of how scary these creatures are and let us know that these are exceptional movie monsters as well as animals. The scene with them dangling from the RV, the raptor scene in the second movie, even just bringing the Stegosauruses to life. These are all moments that don't exist in the first film and only serve to deepen our appreciation for what little the first film was able to get away with. We wouldn't have the Stegosauruses. We wouldn't have the pterodactyls. We wouldn't have two T-Rexes ripping a man in half, R.I.P. Eddie Carr. We wouldn't have any of these things without The Lost World. And I say all of this before I discuss my review of Rebirth because I want to let you know that for me personally as a reviewer and as a fan, I don't think there is anything fundamentally wrong with extending the longevity of this movie, of the first film. I don't fundamentally believe there is an issue with a franchise. The first movie, as perfect as it was, and as much as people like to bemoan and say we need original work, the first movie wasn't original. It was adapted from this. It is an exceptional adaptation. The first Jurassic Park is an adaptation. Therefore, according to a lot of reviewers and a lot of fans who just want to regurgitate the same talking points they've been hearing over and over again because they watch red letter media all the time, these films should not exist, and neither should the first movie, because an adaptation is not an original work. And I want to let you know that at the root, I do not fundamentally hate adaptations, nor do I fundamentally hate sequels. I don't need for them to prove to me their reason for existing beyond being good. So while that might sound like my bar is in hell, I would say that it is a very valid bar to have, in the sense that I don't need you to prove your reason for existing, because movies in themselves don't necessarily need to exist. Movies have a lot of reasons for existing. They can be pure entertainment. They can be films that help us wrestle with the fabric and the morals of our society. They can be means to employ a large group of people, from PAs to actors to costume designers. There are a lot of reasons for a film to exist. I think entertaining an audience is a valid enough reason. That being said, it doesn't mean I like all the Jurassic Park sequels. In fact, I've hated almost all of them until the movie we're reviewing today, Jurassic World Rebirth. Now, spoiler-free review of Jurassic World Rebirth follows a team of specialists who are going onto a new island, Site C, where the dinosaurs still exist because it is close to the equator. Therefore, they can survive in that climate and the oxygen and the atmosphere. And they are going to go onto this long-forgotten island so that they can get the blood from 3 of the largest creatures that have ever existed in the dinosaur/pterosaur. I believe I got that correct. I said I'm a Jurassic Park nerd. I'm not a dinosaur nerd. I don't know all the names. I don't know if I'm saying them correctly. But they're going to get the blood from 3 of the largest dinosaurs/pterosaurs that ever existed, because it will help them figure out a cure for heart disease, so a pharmaceutical company can make a lot of money. It's a very simple premise, and it doesn't necessarily break new territory in what it does or accomplishes. But I think what it does very well is that it is extremely entertaining. It makes the dinosaurs feel real, like real animals again. It looks visually stunning in the sense that it was shot on 35 millimeter, and it makes them scary again. It makes the situations in Jurassic Park absolutely tense and horrifying to some. I've seen it now twice, once in 4DX and once in a regular theater, both times with people who had not seen it, and each time I got to hear the audience gasp and freak out and tense up, and to me that is such an accomplishment, and that's something that I don't feel a lot of these Jurassic World movies have done successfully. On the island, we are following, obviously, Scarlett Johansson plays a mercenary character named Zora. Jonathan Bennett, in his slutty little glasses, plays a paleontologist. And of course, we have Mahershala Ali as the captain of the boat, who is going to get them into the uncharted waters and get them safely off the island. Things go awry, boats crash, people are on the island, and dinosaurs are chasing them. I mean, you know what you're in for when it comes for a Jurassic Park movie, and I think as a Jurassic World movie, this is the only one of them that I felt like the characters were in danger, and that was something that made me hold my breath, that made me excited to see how they would get out of the situations, and had me jumping in my seat, not knowing what was going to happen. I think if you have enjoyed the Jurassic World/Park movies as a whole, this is absolutely a movie to see. I have seen a lot of kids in both theaters that I was at. It is definitely a family fun movie, and it's still a tense movie, so I would still be advised if you're bringing kids under like 10, but it is an enjoyable experience. I think the kids who are brave enough to watch it with their parents, with you, they're gonna get a kick, and they're gonna feel the better for it. They're gonna get out of that theater and think to themselves, wow, I survived that. And I think that's what this movie does very well. It's a fun movie to enjoy with your family, and I think a lot of families are going to come out of this having had a fun experience together. I think it's a great theater experience, and I think it will get kids excited to watch other movies in the franchise. Now, that is your job as a parent to make sure they see the good ones. And there are some stinkers. So if you're asking my opinion on whether or not you should see it, go see it. Let me know what you think, because you may hate it, you may love it, and you may be kind of indifferent to it. I've been fiending for a Jurassic Park movie that I can watch as much as the first two, and this absolutely fills that gap for me. It is so enjoyable to be on that island with these characters, seeing dinosaurs being dinosaurs. There are issues I had with it, and you may or may not get mileage when it comes to mutant dinosaurs. I don't know exactly how I feel about that. I would be interested in watching this movie a few more times over the next few years to see how I feel about the creatures that have never existed before. I think it's a crutch that these Jurassic World movies have leaned on heavily that isn't necessary, and I think one of the most absurd elements from any of these later films, even more so than bringing dinosaurs back to life, is the fact that they try to convince us that people are disinterested in dinosaurs after only 30 years. That's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. All right, I'm still going to the zoo every year. Are you freaking kidding me? People are not gonna be disinterested in dinosaurs. We will still pass cows on the street and go, cow. I still look at dogs on the street and go, can I pet your dog? No one is bored with dinosaurs. That is bullshit. All right, Spielberg, I love you. Stop letting your writers write lines that people are bored with dinosaurs. It's dumb. As a screenwriter, David Koepp's scripts are always kind of hit or miss for me. He's written some films I love. He's written some films I don't love. And I think one of the biggest issues that this film has is that the script feels exactly like what it was. It was rushed into production. I think it had a solid enough start, but I also feel that it could have benefited from multiple passes. As a writer, I have learned what separates a okay script from a great script from an exceptional script, and I'm not claiming to have ever written an exceptional script, but what separates each of those scripts is how much time you're allowed to work on something and how many voices you have giving you input. And this movie was rushed into production to make sure it could meet the July 2nd, 2025 date. And in a lot of areas it shows because there are moments in the film in which things don't necessarily connect. They're set up in the beginning, but at the end, you more or less kind of forget about those elements and you're kind of just keeping up with the characters surviving. And that is enough to make a satisfying film. But if you're really trying to find something there that was existing in the first film, and I still believe a little bit of the second film, you're not necessarily going to find it. I think you're going to find stronger characters than ever existed in the Jurassic World films. And this movie does have a lot of good scenes that kind of discuss the moral implications of existing in the world that they exist in, but it's nothing on par with the first film. I think my biggest complaint obviously has to be the fact that there are no animatronics in this film. I believe that Gareth Edward did an exceptional job of framing the dinosaurs, and the CGI does look exceptional. The CGI was great. They feel real. They are integrated into the environment well, and they're animated like they have a real purpose, like they are real animals. They're not treated like Marvel superhero characters the way the Jurassic World films treated them. They're dinosaurs. They're creatures. They're animals. Their behavior, it comes to territory, to fear, to survival, and to feeding. They are not freaking Superman that swoops in to save the day, and yet that's the way the Jurassic World films have treated them. And that's been the biggest disconnect from the Pratt films that I had. None of the characters ever felt like they were in any danger. They always looked clean and pretty. They acted like models. And I know that Jonathan Bailey and Scarlett Johansson are prettier actors. I bought them in this world a little more than I bought Chris Pratt or Bryce Dallas Howard because they felt like they were in actual danger and because of the way they reacted to when other characters did die. That was something I really did enjoy about this film, is that death felt like it meant something. At the end of the day, it's still a PG-13 Universal Jurassic Park film. It's going to be pretty surface level when it comes to life or death discussions. That being said, I liked that when characters died, other characters reacted. They screamed, their voices cracked. They felt like they were actually losing friends. Did they pick up and keep moving on to the next scene? Yes, but not in the way that it's been egregious with some films where characters are literally cracking jokes or kissing in the remnants of a destructed city. That's right, I'm still frustrated with Man of Steel. But I liked that these characters would react. And there was a scene early on with Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali, both mercenary characters, both have worked dangerous professions. And they're discussing kind of the people they've lost in the line of duty. And there's a moment in which Scarlett Johansson has to be honest about the way one of her friends died, something that happened recently, something that I feel like we could have explored even more in a stronger script, but I don't want to discredit the fact that we were able to kind of sit with that moment from a directing standpoint and the fact that we were able to sit with it from an acting standpoint. Scarlett Johansson did a good enough job portraying the fact that she lost a friend. And I think moments like that help me care about these characters and help me care about not watching them lose another person they love. In fact, if there's anything that this movie was really about, and I do feel the themes are one of the weakest areas on it, there are themes there, and they're there if you excavate them. So I'll give credit where credit's due. And one of the themes that is there, if you look in hard enough, is the idea of not only survival, but survival in terms of those you love. Without giving any spoilers away, there is a character who has suffered, multiple characters who have suffered such personal loss that it motivates them to make sure other characters survive. And it's paid off beautifully, where in the end you feel satisfied with the conclusion to that story, even if you don't necessarily know that that's the theme that they were trying to follow. One of my biggest issues was with there's a secondary family that gets mixed up with the team of mercenaries slash scientists, and this family has to survive the island simultaneously with our main characters. And and the father character is incapacitated. They're not able to constantly jump to save their kids from danger. And yet there's multiple times, and I'm gonna have to fault this on the director, there's multiple times in which it felt the actor was not directed strong enough in terms of blocking, because almost every scene with this dad character and their kids, the kid is in danger's way and the father is far back going, come here, come here. And the way he was directed, it doesn't come across to the audience that this dad is incapable of going after the kid themselves. And so what it ends up looking like is this dad who's just kind of passively trying to get his kid to come over and doesn't look fully invested. And this is no fault on the actor. I really do believe this falls strictly on Gareth Edwards. And again, the rushed time frame. This is a film that they needed to get out as quickly as they could. And that's where a lot of these things are going to fall through the cracks. When you understand how films are made, how they're put into production, you can start to see why things don't seem as obvious to the people while they're making it as they seem as obvious to the audience. And as an audience member, I'm sitting there watching this dad try to get his kids over, but he's not jumping for them. He's not forcibly held back. He's not stuck in one place. He's just kind of standing there going, hey, come here. Oh no! The acting's not that bad, but when you watch the movie, if you watch the movie, you'll kind of know what I mean. There's definitely a lot of moments where we were in the theater going, go! Grab them! Bring them back! The hell are you doing? And it's one of those things that I think could have been fleshed out more had you had a director, had you had a writer that were really focused on making sure every single thing felt earned and paid off. As it was, I think the script was strong enough in that it had a good enough reason to get them to the island. It had a lot of good, stressful, tense scenes. It had a satisfying enough ending, but satisfying and good enough are not great or not exceptional. And I think they could have got there had they spent a little bit more time in pre-production. Had Gareth Edwards gotten his wish and gotten the ability to delay the film to spend more time with the script, but they didn't. I don't necessarily like a lot of the homages to the original film, and if there was a weak spot in the film, it was just how heavily it relied on that kitchen scene. But that can be said of almost every monster movie of the last 30 years. If I have to see another character up against something hiding and looking as another monster is like overlooking their heads, I mean, I'm going to go crazy. It's every film apes it. Obviously, Jurassic Park did it the best, so of course they're going to try to ape it. But it's one of those things where I'm like, come on, we need to find a different way of getting characters to quietly evade and avoid a monster. That being said, I still enjoyed it. I think it was a fun movie. I just loved the atmosphere of this film. It was so much fun to see these dinosaurs back in the jungle. And then it was also fun to see them kind of in these man-made, decrepit, forgotten environments. I think that's what the Jurassic Park movies do well, is showcasing dinosaurs juxtaposed with things we'd never see them in. I was happy that they shot it on 35 millimeter. I was happy they shot it in real locations. God, it looked gorgeous. And I was just happy that the dinosaurs were treated with respect. I think it was fun towards the end when we leaned more into creature feature territory and we got the more mutant dinosaurs. I think they were utilized well enough. I would still caution future filmmakers from leaning too heavily on it. I really don't think we need mutants. That being said, this was the best case example of using mutants, in my opinion, because they felt like actual aberrations and just godforsaken creatures. And I think that's what made them work in this film more than they worked in Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, because these creatures felt like accidents. They felt like the actual byproduct of a bunch of scientists who don't care about the environment, who don't care about the godforsaken creatures they're bringing into this world. And they felt like monstrosities that were forgotten by their creators in a way that the Indominus Rex, I never bought that the Indominus Rex would be something that audiences would need or would want to see, because I don't believe that people would be bored with dinosaurs. I don't believe it. So I don't think the Indominus Rex was important. I don't think it was necessary. And I don't think it makes sense. I think it's a grotesque, ugly looking thing that works as a creature, but doesn't work in the universe as being an attraction. I think it's invisible. Why would you want an invisible attraction? It makes no sense. That's not something you would want to see roaming and mutilating other dinosaurs. I think these films don't give audiences enough credit in that we do revere and we like animals, and we would be up in arms if we saw some disgusting morphed monstrosity. I mean, you see how people react to even pugs. People are always like, pugs are malformed, disgusting things, they don't even deserve to live. There's no way that people are really gonna need an Indominus Rex to get them to Jurassic World. It's great as a monster, but it doesn't make sense in the world. Whereas the Dosaurus Rex and the Mutodons made sense in the fact that they were grotesque aberrations that were never meant to be seen by the public, and then they got loose, and that means they're dangerous. And I like that element of them. The atmosphere when the lights went down was moody once they came around, and I think they worked in their isolated scene. We got enough of them, but it wasn't enough to distract from the amazing dinosaurs that we saw throughout the rest of the movie. And the dinosaurs we saw throughout the rest of the movie were perfect. They were expertly done, and I would see it again. And I think I've talked for long enough. I'm still getting used to this. I haven't structured my reviews out the way some people who've been doing this for years have them structured out. I don't know what my format is going to be. These are my rambles. These are my thoughts. I try to keep it as spoiler free as possible. Go see the movie. If you're excited about it, stay excited about it. And if you don't like the Jurassic Park movies outside of the first movie, don't waste your money. And that's valid. That's why you're here listening to a review, right? To determine whether or not this is like an exceptional film. It's not. It's fun. And I think if you're a fan of Jurassic Park like I am, this will give you something that the Jurassic World movies have not done up until this point. Finally, I will say there was a lot of sponsorships in this movie. It was pretty egregious. Mars candy bars, definitely. Let's just say a Snickers bar that's one of the most absurd uses of a Snickers bar I've ever seen in a movie. All right, I think I'm done talking. This has been my Jurassic World Rebirth review. Let me know your thoughts below. Let me know specifically why you didn't like this movie, because I just want to challenge you to not hate on a movie because you're just regurgitating what you've heard other critics say. I think critics are missing the point. I think they don't give audiences credit themselves, and I think they're so into their own view of what movies should or should not exist that they will invalidate an entire film, and they invalidate an entire audience just because they enjoy something that's fun and schlocky. And I think that's wrong. I think it's rude. I think there is nothing wrong with a movie existing to make audiences just have fun. It's a great summer fun movie. It's an awesome movie to bring your kids to. And I think it's still quality. It looks beautiful. It's tense, it's well edited, and it's an enjoyable film that was clearly made by people who just wanted to make a good Jurassic Park movie. Now, you can decide whether or not they did, but I think it's valid that they were trying to make a good movie. And for some of us, it was good enough to rewatch multiple times. I've talked long enough. Oh my God, I'm done. I'm Josiah Rizzo. Thank you for watching this, and bye. Just bye. Get out of here. Go. Get Dolores. Get out of here. It's dangerous. Okay, bye.